Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us on this beautiful New Year's Eve day. Well, we are here today, of course, to say goodbye to 2021, and I can't think of a better year to say goodbye to, except maybe 2020, right? But in any case, at least we have high hopes that 2022 will be definitely more prosperous and more healthy than we have been. And of course, this show is modeled after the New Year's Day in Vienna, which you'll probably be able to see on public television tomorrow. And as such, it's basically, and the tradition started, I think, in the 1930s in Vienna, to feature Strauss family and other related composers in a very light Pops concert. So as such, I think that the big focus, we have this overture and we have another one coming on the second half, but it's all about the waltzes and the polkas and so on. So we'd like to move right into our first waltz, the Kiss waltzes. Is actually related, well, most of the waltzes you know of, the big ones, Blue Danube and so on, they're independently labeled or named for something, whether it's associated with a male chorus or there's a story behind it. Something like that, but in this case, it's more indicative of what Strauss tended to do to draw from his operettas. So in this case, it's a pastiche of melodies from his operetta, The Merry War, and particularly featured is a certain aria that was in there. It's Nur für Natur. That was a big hit when the show started, so you'll hear that one coming back over and over, which makes it a little bit different from most waltz forms. But anyway, this is the Kiss waltzes. Thank you. Thank you. Well, the other popular dance piece outside of the waltz, of course, is the polka. And as you'll hear today, there are different types of polkas. But the more typical one you're familiar with is the polka schnell, or the fast polka. And as much as all of the Strauss family music was topical in that they would write pieces with titles that were kind of current news and so on, that was really much more the case with the smaller works like the polkas and the quadrilles and so on. So this polka, I wouldn't say so much as a current news item as just an ongoing problem. I like to think of it as though they were having outdoor concerts, because to play Thunder and Lightning polka is sort of thumbing your nose at the risk of doing an outdoor concert. So we're in this safe place today, but at any rate, the Thunder and Lightning is wonderfully portrayed, of course, in the percussion. So this is the very, very well-known Johann Strauss Jr. Thunder and Lightning polka. Thank you. Thank you. Well, as I mentioned before, these concerts have traditionally been designed not only to feature the members of the Strauss family dynasty, but also other related composers, because the tradition that got started actually with Johann Strauss Sr. and Joseph Lahner and several others to make really, in effect, a kind of the first popular music, socially popular music of the day. This was really a process of a wide polyglot empire like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, including Hungarians, Bohemians, Croatians, even Romanians, and so on. And Vienna, as the center, was very much, in those days, like we think of New York in these days. And so everything was happening there, and there was a mixture of cross cultures that created very interesting musical and other arts culture. But Franz Lehár is a sort of a later comer to this tradition, born in 1870, I guess. But of course, I'm sure all of you are familiar with some of the tunes from The Merry Widow, which is, of course, his famous, most famous musical, or I should say operetta. But we're going to present to you now a vocal selection from his latest, his last and biggest opera project. In fact, it was so substantive that it almost became, considered an opera. It's Giuditta, and it's not heard really anywhere today except for this song that you will hear today. But it's interesting that he tried to go into a more serious vein, really emulating the Carmen story, so it doesn't end happy. Giuditta is a rather adventurous young woman who abandons her husband for, and you can hear the Carmen relationship here, abandons her husband for a military officer, and they go to North Africa. And then at that point, he abandons her for further military adventures, so she's stuck in North Africa. So at this point in the story, she is, in essence, kind of bemoaning, but also celebrating her status as this nightclub dancer. And so, I mean, it's a very suggestive title, meine Lippen so heiß, sie küssen so heiß, my lips give a fiery kiss, her lips are hot. So at any rate, it's a very interesting song, and also really gives you an idea of Lehár's Hungarian roots. You have a lot of that you already heard in the overture, the Gypsy Baron, being that also had Hungarian influence, but it was just a part and parcel of this whole Viennese style. So it's a pleasure for me to welcome out to sing this for you someone who's a recent addition to the area, has recently taken on a faculty position in the voice department at Coastal Carolina University. And if you happen to hear our Messiah performance, she sang the soprano solos of that as well. So please join me in welcoming out Amelia Rawlings, soprano.
Liebe
Now we get back into the Strauss family and bring you one of the most famous polkas. Again, this is not a fast polka. It's more of it's just a gentle polka. It's one that Johann wrote with his brother Joseph when they were on a tour to Russia, and it became a big hit, particularly in Italy, and they had to play it everywhere, and I'm sure you've heard it before. It's for strings only and a few bell notes. It's the pizzicato polka. Thank you. Well, I trust at that point you'll never forget what pizzicato is. So you've got a musical term under your belt. So we'd like to finish the first half. We've already just now heard a joint piece between Johann and his younger brother Joseph. But we want to feature something by Joseph Strauss, who's sort of the lesser-known younger brother. I think they're only about 2 years apart. But Joseph was a very talented guy. And, you know, a lot of these folks, they weren't supposed to be musicians anyway. And we still realize that today, that your parents go, hey, you really want to do that for a living? So in spite of the fact that the Strauss family was already a dynasty, they were always encouraged to go study something else because everyone knew how hard a life it was, you know. And so Joseph studied engineering. He published a couple books on mathematics. And kind of an interesting thing, he invented a horse-drawn rotator brush street cleaner for the streets of Vienna, among other things. But he was sickly his whole life. He had headaches and, as a matter of fact, fainting spells. And so his demise came when he was out conducting somewhere for his brother. And he had a fainting spell, fell off the podium. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen to me. And, you know, had a head injury and died shortly thereafter in his early 40s. And so Johann himself said, that Joseph was really the more talented one. He just happened to be the more famous one. And it's I think had he lived a lot longer, it would be interesting to hear his work, because he was a little bit more esoteric than his brother and a little more imaginative harmonically. And so I think it's fun to end this first half with this Sphärenklänge, or music of the spheres, set of waltzes, because particularly in the introduction, you hear some very adventurous harmonies and almost reminiscent of Wagner. If you can imagine a scene in Wagner when you hear some of these expressive harmonies and the melodic material around it. But we've also peppered this up a little bit to give you a little bit of the feel of that Viennese New Year's Day experience with a couple of dancers. So interspersed throughout this Sphärenklänge waltzes, we'll have Ralph Hahn and Kathy Fortner kind of complement the musical flow a little bit. So this is the music of the spheres waltzes. I think they're going to go rest up for their second appearance. So at this point, we will take an intermission and be back with more Strauss and other composers. Thanks. Thank you, and welcome back. We'll start off this second half with a composer who is basically a contemporary of Johann Strauss, but was a different part of that polyglot empire I was mentioning. He's Croatian, and at some point he gravitated toward Vienna and began writing, and he was just active in the same genres, particularly doing operetta. His works are not known that much today. However, two overtures are very prominent, and you probably would recognize them from cartoons. And we'll play probably the more famous of the two of them. This is from his operetta Light Cavalry, the overture. Thank you. Thank you. Now, next is, well, I'm driven to do this because, and this is as a sharing an inside joke within the office, but we have driven ourselves crazy doing final proofing of programs and other documents like that. And no matter how many times we put our eyes on it, there's always one thing. And I think that's a good, I don't know if you feel the same way, but when something is too perfect, that's not good. You got to find one little flaw, right? And then everything else is good. You know you've got that one flaw. Well, our next composer is not a member of the Strauss family. His name is Oscar Strauss. However, he decided that he was not any bloodline with the famous Strauss family, so he thought he better cut his ties that way so people didn't keep assuming. So he dropped what would have been the S-set. Now, I'll tell you, if I had an S-set in my name, I wouldn't lose it. You know, the double S, it's a big B. We spell it with two S's. So I think we defaulted into putting two S's on his name. So if you want to take your pen out and just strike out that second S, his name is S-T-R-A-U-S. You know, he was making a point. It's like maybe when he went to the union office to get a union card. So you can't be Strauss. We've already got one of those. So at any rate, he is of the same generation as Lehar. In fact, was a big competition for him. And he at least followed. I mean, he was friendly with Johann Strauss, who advised him, you know, it's more lucrative to get into writing operettas than writing waltzes and so on. So he focused in on that. He heard Lehar's The Merry Widow, and he said, I could do that. So he launched on a career of doing just that and wrote a number of works and lived from 1870 and well into the 1950s. You know, wrote a number of things. Again, these things are lost unless you want to go, like, there's a wonderful program, Ohio Light Opera, in Worcester, Ohio, that does these types of performances, operettas and so on. So if you ever have a yearning for the cuteness of operetta, which is really, it's very charming stuff, you should check that out and go, because I think they still have a wonderful set of summer performances for that. But at any rate, this is, so many of these are based on feuding. I think this is, the pretext is a war between Serbians and Bulgarians. You know, it's always, and it's like in Strauss, the Merry War, it's always a pretext for some sort of mistaken identity. Well, the Chocolate Soldier happens to be an enemy force who sneaks into the house to escape the soldiers, and he doesn't have bullets, he has chocolate, and he wins the heart of, I think it's Nadina, who's the lead character, whose story you will hear. What she's singing at the time is about her brave officer who's off in battle. Turns out he's neither so brave nor so understanding about things. So as soon as he comes back, it turns out that this chocolate soldier is the one that Nadina is really attracted to. So instead of bullets, chocolate. And I think that's a good way to go, don't you think? We could, how about Putin, we could have some chocolates, take over to Ukraine. That might be a good idea. But at any rate, if you'll welcome back Amelia Rawlings to sing My Hero from the Chocolate Soldier.
I have a
Well, next we come to one of the great Johann Strauss waltzes. And it's not as though it's necessarily topical, but it's sentimental in that it's wine, women, and song. And it is said that the quote, "He who loves not wine, women, and song remains a fool his whole life long." That's been attributed to Martin Luther. Now, I'm wondering, I think it was a hot mic moment, you know? I mean, he said it to a friend who was sort of, well, you know, I'll pass that along and see how that works. But anyway, it's just a wonderful epic, one of the mature, full sets of waltzes in the standard style. So this is Wine, Women, and Song by Johann Strauss. All right, so next we are back to a polka, and in this case a polka schnell, or a fast polka, the kind that you're most accustomed to. This was written by, yes, this is a member of the Strauss family. This is the baby brother, Edward. And Edward was about 10 years younger than Johann. And he conducted a lot, but he didn't write to the level that, of course, Johann did, writing operettas and so on. He stuck to small pieces, and his specialty was the polka, the fast polkas. And this was one that I guess was the Strauss Orchestra was contracted to play for one of the official Austro-Hungarian Railways party on the Danube. And so he had the distinction of being able to write a little piece for them called Clear Bonfrei, or basically Clear the Track. And so it's got a lot of, traditionally put in a lot of extra fun. So I think we'll embark on our All Aboard. And I've always wanted to be a conductor. So here we go with Bonfrei Polka. Thank you. Thank you. Now we have another polka, but a polka mazurka, which is a sort of a hybrid as far as a dance. It's not fast. It has the sort of strong second beats that are characteristic of a Polish mazurka. And this was actually written by a friend / acquaintance of mine. And so there are people who are still out there writing in this style, as there are with all things that are elements of the past. There's still the nostalgia to keep writing. So Kurt Schmidt, I ran into when I went to a competition in 2000 in Vienna. And he was very generous to me to talk about the Viennese style and give me basically a folder of his pieces. And I've enjoyed this one, one of the most of all, the first, Der erste Kuss, the first kiss. Presumably is about, remember mistletoe? I hope these things don't all die out. But we can't give you a kiss under any circumstances these days. So we'll blow you a few kisses in this Der erste Kuss. And to add to it, we have our dancers, Ralph and Kathy, to sort of demonstrate a polka mazurka to you. All right, so now the remainder of this concert is steeped in tradition and just process. And since we've had a year out, we haven't done this, we didn't do it in 2020, I have to sort of retrain you about this. If you've ever watched this, see, over the history of it, there became certain pieces that were set encores. Everyone knew they were going to hear it at the end. And what better piece for that than the Blue Danube waltzes, right? So it's become a tradition. It's rather silly, but I want you to play along. As soon as you hear the little tremolo that starts the introduction to the waltzes, then you applaud. At which point, the Vienna Philharmonic, you'll watch, they stop, and the conductor, whoever's conducting that year, will turn around and wish you guys a Happy New Year. So we're going to go through this. We've rehearsed it, so you need to do your part. So here we go. The Long Bay Symphony and I wish all of you a happy and prosperous New Year. Thank you. Oh, you know from the program it ain't over yet. You know that. More tradition, actually. I'm sure you all know. This is our one piece representing Johann Strauss Sr., the father. And this is a very important march he wrote for a war effort. And it has become the Stand. It's the one piece everybody knows. And, of course, the ultimate audience participation piece. So you know how it goes. Join along. The Radetzky March. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, thank you. You didn't know this, but there is more. We add our own little personal touch to it. It's a good time of year for us to reflect on our own environment, not necessarily in a European Strauss world, but we're going to sing together Auld Lang Syne. And to think about, and it's hard to do it without breaking up, I should have said. Breaking up is hard to do. But just a second. We're all pondering resolutions, as we always do at this time. I want to just suggest something in general, because this is part of our lives. We've had a tough couple of years, all the way around. I would recommend more social, less media. What I would like all of us to do is have conversations eye to eye, so we understand the people we're talking to and can be empathetic. We're in a church. Don't you hear this every week? we should practice this. We need to make a resolution to do better. We've had tough times, but I wish this for all of us. We're all in this together. We have to do this together. So let's make it a point in 2022 to go there. So in that spirit, join us in singing Auld Lang Syne. We'll have the lyrics up on the board here.